Hi guys, so in this episode we're still in South Australia, not far from Burra, but we're heading out on the back streets to explore some of the historical remote homesteads and other buildings. Places like the Midnight Oil old building, but we're also going to be exploring lots of other interesting places, and then we're going to be heading up the road to show you some more of this remote outback parts of South Australia. Well, if you're into Australian history, travel tips, free camping and other information about travelling around Australia with the dog, you've come to the right channel. So join us, Dougie the dog, Kevin the caravan, as we explore Australia. So while we're at the Visitor Information Centre, the lady suggested that I pick up the app for the different things you could do around Burra and all these different hikes. So I picked up this one, and what we're actually going to do is take on the Dare Hill circuit route. So we're going to be following this and we're going to start our tour. So this is a great way of doing it, and you get to listen to all the different things as you head along in the car. Okay, so our first stop is the Cobb & Co. Corner Homestead, which for most of you will know it as the front cover of the Midnight Oil album. And it's famous. People come here and take photographs of it. At the moment, we've got this beautiful canola flower, so it's a very different view to what you're used to. But this is going to be typical, according to the app, of the kind of ruins and stuff we're going to see on this trip. So as I said in the intro to this video, we're at Mount Bryan. Now Mount Bryan is roughly 16 kilometres north of Burra on the Barry Highway, and it's a very picturesque little town. So this was something I found really interesting. So part of this trip, according to the app, is about the Goyder line and the different sides of the Goyder line, but this was really interesting about what the farm ownership and titles were like, small farmsteads, to what it's like now. So Mount Bryan was actually a thriving railway town in the early days. Obviously it's all gone now, but this is where we're going to start turning off to head towards Mount Bryan itself. But before we go, I did notice this great mosaic, and this particular guy's homestead is actually listed as one of the places that we'll be visiting. So our next stop on this route is the Mount Bryan Bible Christian Chapel ruins that was built in 1871. So here we are at stop number 4, and this is a really interesting one, and it's got some really good history, but it's a long one, so I'm going to run it off the audio from the app.
This is the Wilkins family homestead that was in ruins until its restoration in 2001. George Hubert Wilkins was born at Mount Bryan East, the youngest of 13 children. He went to the local school, then continued his studies at the School of Mines in Adelaide, studying electrical engineering. He went to England in 1909, where he became interested in aviation and spent 3 years with an Arctic expedition as a photographer. In 1916, he joined the Great War. Following the war, he took part in the famous England to Australia air race, which won fame for Charles Kingsford Smith. Unfortunately, Hubert Wilkins crashed his plane Kangaroo at Crete and was unable to complete the race. In 1927, he made several unsuccessful attempts to fly over the Arctic and was stranded on an ice pack, having to walk for 13 days to reach habitation. Later, his mission was successful, and he made several flights over the Arctic, receiving a knighthood for his work.
Let's go down and have a closer look. There's still some buildings that just remains. Now, because this place is a B&B, guys, you could literally come out here, book in and actually stay. So, if you're looking for a nice peaceful retreat, this might be ideal. It's certainly beautifully preserved. And I can still smell some varnish on the doors. And there's the old outhouse. Yep, beautifully revarnished. Yep, so if you're looking for somewhere different to camp, or maybe check this out as a B&B opportunity. Now, I have to say, Dick Smith needs a lot of credit for the amount of stuff he does for Australia and the history of Australia. So guys, this is the historic old Mount Bryan East church and schoolhouse. So that's the old schoolhouse there. So this is part of our tour. Now, it's the signs we've been following are Tourist Drive 21. So we're on the Tourist Drive 21, and it's called the Goyder line, surveyed by George Goyder in 1865, and it's the line for the rainfall. So once you cross that line, you start to get into the deserty area. And just over here is the Mount Bryan East School that was operating from 1885 to 1919. But it's also a great place to stop. There's toilets out the back and picnic tables, and there's room to swing a caravan around in as well. It isn't actually listed as an overnight free stop, but you could definitely stop here. We saw some people who were cycling, and they were cycling around. Anyway, we're going to head on and explore our next stop. Well, we're continuing to follow this trail along, and we're now at Dare Hill Summit. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you can have a really good look. That is just stunning. Can you say hi? You want to get to the bush? Yeah. Okay. So according to the app, guys, somewhere over on one side there is Chinaman's Hat Hill, and then it's looking over onto the Wonder Ranges, but I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then in addition to that, Dare's Hill is actually named after William Dare, who was a pastoralist in this area. And we're now going to head down the hill to check out his old homestead, which is stop number 7 on our tour. So we are now at the William Dare homestead ruins, and it's pretty impressive what's left out here. And so we're on the Dare Road, so you'll just have to Google on Google Maps to find the Dare Road, and then it is marked with one of those little castles as a point of interest. So this is absolutely stunning, these remains of the pioneers, farming pioneers that set up the farming industry in this part of South Australia. So you've still got the old wooden window frame. I'm not going inside, guys, because I don't think it's safe to do so. But you can see the old fireplace in there. And then there's another old building up there, which has still got the roof on it. But this is well worth coming out. There are more buildings than just these ones here that I'm showing you. There's a whole stack. In fact, one of them has got a water tank put inside it. There's also, oh, look at that, beautiful flowers. That is really, really nice. And so this is the bottom of the summit after we've been up to the top of it. I think that's an Erica. But you can see inside here the big old fireplace. And lots of people have graffitied inside the old ruins. And just extend the camera out so that I don't actually have to go in there, but you guys can get a good look. This is very cool. And you can see just over there in the distance there's more remains of old buildings. And then straight over there, you can see there's another old building. And we're going to go back out through the gate and head off to see our next site. But this pioneer tour is well worth the effort. So guys, while the tour goes on and there's some other amazing sights to see, all up there's about 30 different locations. I think it's actually 36, but we're going to take the shortcut and go back into the little town of Hallett, and which is part of the Goyder line, and we're going to see if we can find somewhere open to get some afternoon tea. So from here we'll actually jump forward 14 stops to which is a really interesting town, and I'm going to show you around. Here I am reflecting in it. I'm going inside. It's a nice little old rickshaw. Nice little country town. So this is really, really fancy. Oh my god, they are antique plates with all the gold etching on it. Wow. For a little country town with a population of roughly 60 people, this is really good, high quality service. here we go, in the town of Hallett. Hallett, it's a town of Hallett. Oh, look at that, it's got the old flower logo on top, Lion's Flower Place, like that. Sometimes it's so good to stop in little country towns and just get out and explore, because you never know what you're going to see. You really don't. So look at some of these old buildings. Dougie. So this is the old post office. It's not the post office anymore, but it was the old post office and bank building. That's the problem with little towns. So much stuff stops being operated as businesses. We've got houses for sale. So if you want to live out somewhere nice, police station, you want these beautiful old cottages, yeah, they're fixer-uppers, but still worth it. We're going to cross the barrier highway now. Sheepdog garden sheep. Ducky thinks it's a rare sheepdog. Okay, so while this board is really interesting and Dougie's having a great little walk, I'm actually going to put the talk over from the app on about Hallett so I can share a little bit of history as we continue our walk.
Hallett lies on the Barrier Highway, an important transport route through the mid-north of the state. The pioneering settlers in the region established pastoral runs in the 1850s, despite it being unexplored and not fully surveyed. Surveyed in 1870, the town is named after brothers John and Alfred Hallett, early pioneers in the district, and became a rural service centre. Goyder's line passes to the east of the township, dividing the region into pastoral and agricultural properties. In the 1860s, there were a larger number of people who successfully took up agriculture, producing grain, the economic backbone of the state. With the arrival of the railway linking the region to the markets in Adelaide in the 1880s, the town grew. Now that the railway line has closed, the link still exists along the highway. Hallett was the home of the Statten Gate, manufactured in Ned Statten's blacksmith shop, that operated between 1892 and 1957. These became a stock item on properties across the region. See the display in the main street of the town.
Well, I think I must be blind because I didn't see the display in the main street of the gate. But anyway, maybe you guys can spot it. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it. So when we walked back into the cafe, the gentleman had these brochures on the counter, which is actually a heritage walk. We're going to drive around to have a look at the last few stops before we head back to the caravan. Okay guys, the first stop on the list in the car is number 30, which is the Uniting Church, formerly the Methodist Church. It was built in 1880 and then it was added on to in 1920 to commemorate the death of David MacDonald, who was killed in the First World War. Later on, the playgroup building, which was a kindergarten, was added in 1929. Okay guys, so earlier in the video I have shown you a lot of the walks on the main street, including the post office and the store where we had coffee, which was the original general store from 1877. But this one is the Price's Dam site. It was built in 1886 and it was built to wash wool, which is really interesting. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as we've been exploring the pioneer history around the outer edge of the Barry Highway and Goyder Highway, and we'll be showing you more history and more historical places in our next episode as we travel around Australia.